gives you an in-depth look at topics like what it takes to navigate your spiritual journey, how to heal yourself and grow your spiritual gifts, and balanced practices to expand your business and your spiritual leadership. I'm your host, Spirit Bird, shamanic teacher, healer, and author, here to guide you on your journey to becoming your most potent spiritual leader. I was in an interview the other day, and the host asked me, what's the first thing someone needs to learn before working with me? And it's interesting because I know she meant, or what she was looking for is, what are steps that people need to do first before they, join one of my higher level programs. But after I was thinking about it for a while, I was like, there are steps or places that people will need to be at to join the programs. And I was like, but what actually I feel like people most need to know before working with me is I'm figuring it out too. I'm still figuring it out. And, this is part of the coaching industry and part of the marketing industry is to really, designate yourself as an authority, which I think is good. It's good for healing. It's good for, a lot of people that are working through sharing their gifts. And there's kind of that like darker spot where it has you fall into the trap of trying to exude the confidence, even if you don't actually feel it, and to demonstrate by showing how you have everything together. And what I really want my students to understand and my future journeyers to understand is I'm figuring this out too. I'm in this entrepreneurial group with some other women, and there's been lots of times I've hopped onto a meeting and, there's pretty cool women and they're doing good things, and when we get into these like structured formats, there's a way that like the personality goes away and everybody steps into this sort of like fake confidence thing. It's super masculine. It's like I've got this all worked out. I know what I'm doing. I'm already an expert, even if I just started my business. And everything they do is groundbreaking, and it's frustrating because I can see the front right away. There's nothing wrong with having actual confidence, but I think that's what is frustrating to me is like, I can see that they're not actually connected to their confidence, that they're saying the words, but they don't actually feel it or believe it. And sometimes it's because it's not actually even true, where we say that we do this thing, but we don't actually even have any experience or any results getting people the results that we say that we're really good at getting. So it's frustrating because I know it's fake, and really like where it hurts is I really just want to connect, like they don't need to impress me. It's also frustrating because for some reason it seems to work. People buy into it, they're totally into it. They're totally into this like, oh, they're so confident. They must really know what they're doing. So just noticing that, and I'm sure you can feel some of my judgment here also. So most of my life, I've been on extremes. Usually one extreme or the other. So when I really started to venture more directly into the business world, I didn't really like all of the the bro marketing, corporate suit, like slimy sales type tactics that we've all experienced and that many of us think of first when we think of sales or we think of marketing or advertising, where people, make us believe that there's something wrong and we need something, right? And, wrapped up in all of this was really the fundamental belief that if a company was doing well, then somebody along the lines must be getting screwed, right? So I have my whole worldview built on this whole idea that basically business is bad. And making an income is bad. That there were very few specialized things that you could do to earn a living that I thought were actually okay. So with all of this belief in mind, then getting into situations where that seems to be present, where it's like, oh man, this is so not authentic and so not real. And I'm really craving some of that in the business world. Then what I would do is do the extreme opposite. And, to be fair, I've also caught myself trying to do the same thing, like watching the mood of the group and trying to like impress or demonstrate my value, like trying on what it sounds like or feels like to say these words. And then I catch myself doing it. And I'm like, I did the thing that I hate when other people do. And then I remind myself that I'm still figuring this out. I got to try on some things, test them out, see what works, see what feels good, So a huge part of me really wants to skip over this step and make them wrong for trying this thing, for attempting the marketing piece, for attempting to like find the strategy or find the authority and mimic them, and then I'll be saved, right? And so I end up doing the exact opposite. So then instead I go up to these meetings, like, okay, I'm going to show up as like real life me. And, maybe I do share what's like really happening for me on a deeper level, but it's not the right container for it, and in these short interactions, there isn't actually very much deep connection. And I'm not actually sharing my offer either, which doesn't serve me at all. It also doesn't serve them at all. And really, I started to notice that it's kind of another form of hiding, of like trying to present this thing, like, oh, I'm being really real, but taking this realness to a container that's actually not available for it. And so in that way, I'm actually like hiding the part of me that is wanting to be developed, which is really bringing, because I feel the confidence inside me, like I can feel it in my body. I know what I do. I know what I provide for people. I've seen the results like repeated, right? So I feel that confidence inside, but what I'm learning to do is how to actually communicate it. And especially to communicate that knowing and that power without vacating myself afterwards or during the time while I say it. So, if I'm going to be real, when I am watching people that, again, you'll hear the judginess here in me, which I've done a lot of work on. But when I watch people that I believe are doing sort of more like basic stuff, it's great what they're doing. They're doing cool things, right? And it's really important work, but like doing more basic stuff. But because it's new to them, they really believe that they've like broken some ground, or they're doing something radical or that's never been done before, or like the most amazing thing, the most powerful thing, And when I see them talk that way, like, to be honest, I'm like a little jealous, because I'm like, dang, like you really, you really think you're rocking this, right? And then here I am like knowing that I am actually, the business is going great, that my students are doing really well, that the results we're getting is beautiful. And yet communicating it, I get a little bit shy about, right? So I'm actually jealous when I see the opposite. And so we're all just still figuring it out, right? And so one side of the coin knows how to communicate the thing, like the confidence or the type of person that they want to be. So they know how to like mimic it, but they don't actually know how to be it. They're acting like it without being it, right? And so then you can feel this like gap in between, and that's that inauthenticity, where it doesn't feel sincere or real, right? Because it's sort of like disconnected from like who they actually are. And then, I'm on the other side of this, which is like, wow, I really know how to be it and feel it, but I don't know how to communicate. I have a gap when I bring out the communication, because then I'm trying to demonstrate that I know how. That's such a tricky thing. And, I also realized, in regards to extremes, that when I thought that I was seeing something happening in the world or in a meeting, in my life somewhere, and I didn't like the way something was going, the way I would try to respond was, again, to do this like opposite, like to try to counterbalance it by doing the other extreme. If it's too quiet, then I'll be shaking things up. If there's too much attention grabbing, then I will for sure not need anything. If things are going too fast, I'll really slow things down. If everybody is doing this, then I will do the opposite, right? Bit of a contrarian there. And I realized that it's really less of a response than it is a reaction. It's like this knee-jerk reaction. Honestly, it's really a control thing is what I am starting to see. And I'm a pretty attuned person. So when something is out of balance, I often try to control it, again, by pushing to the other extreme. And it makes me think, I don't know the exact saying, but it makes me think of the idea that like when a bow is starting to rock, right? And it's leaning too much to one side. And so then you try to go to the other side to counterbalance it. What actually happens is the boat just rocks more instead of actually trying to come to the center and be still there. So to bring balance isn't to do the other extreme, but to find the middle and rest. And that's where I am with my business and life. And I'm still figuring it out. For most of my life, I've been on the more extreme spiritual path and feminine path, right? Keep things loose, go with the flow. Let the wind take me, follow the signs. Structure is bad. It's a trap. Commitment is bad. It's a trap. Yeah. But you can't really build a sustainable business from that either, because it's only one side of the circle, right? And I really wanted to bypass all of the structural marketing stuff, all of the masculine side of creating a business and the life that I want. And I'd be like, oh, the masculine is bad. Society has its priorities backwards. Everybody's chasing the carrot, chasing the paycheck, and giving up who you are, in favor of some outside thing. And that's just an example of how the society is sick. But to compensate, then I kept myself in a state where I sort of felt free. I was like, oh, I'm not like that. I do it this way. And so what that looked like is I worked a gazillion different jobs where I felt like I had control of when I could work. Like I wasn't subject to somebody like writing me a schedule, but I was having to coordinate like all of these different gigs. I did have flexibility in that I could work when I wanted to and not, but I still had to work. I was working and serving at a much lower level than I was actually capable of. Again, there's nothing wrong with working different jobs, and fulfilling different roles, but it was just at a much lower level than I was capable at. So I wasn't actually being challenged. And I told myself I had freedom, and that's what makes me happy. I have freedom. See, I'm free, but I didn't actually have freedom. I told myself I was better because I wasn't trapped in the system, but I was trapped in a distorted version of the feminine, and I rejected its masculine counterparts. I was trapped in the belief that just one side of the circle is safe. I see a lot of spiritual people try to skip the masculine. And skip capitalism. They try to skip the part of learning rules, right? And best practices and strategy because they're afraid they'll lose themselves if they cross over. But crossing over into places we don't want to go isn't actually how we lose ourselves, but how we heal ourselves. It works the other way around too, of course. If you're building a spiritual business or any business really, you might be caught in the masculine trap. Find the authority and then do what they do. Who's the person with the data? Get the science. Let's repeat what they're saying without any awareness or actual personal experience, right? Without really any awareness of personal cycles or patterns, or teachings around how to identify and respect individual paths and how they move. And so, yeah, from this side of the circle, that place of trying to build a business from that viewpoint, especially trying to build a spiritual business or a business using your gifts, leaves most people pretty burnt out from the cookie cutter sales, from the script marketing, from the tactics that really cut you off from your own intuition and your own knowing. Sucks the soul right out of everything you do when you're using the mind alone, that just one really small part of our human capacity. And of course, you might find yourself trapped on the masculine side of the circle with no trust in yourself. You think flow is mimicking the perfect conditions to constantly achieve, and that's not what it is. So this too is where I'm learning to find the center in myself and in my business. I'm learning to listen to my body when it's tired instead of trying to push through. I'm learning how to bring in a clear structure to my to-do list instead of just doing random whatevers. And this is again where that center is, where when I went in with sort of the distorted feminine, it's like if I give myself a task list, now I've just become a slave to my own business. And shouldn't I just isn't going with the flow, just getting to do whatever I want? And kind of, but you still have to have some support and structure for it to actually work, right? We want to find the center of these two places. And so what I was finding is when I thought I could just kind of free flow and do whatever, I ended up not getting much done, which actually ended up adding more to my list, and didn't really help me move forward or progress in my growth or in my business. And then when I brought in a structure to my to-do list, right, that's actually what gave me extra time to do the things that nurture my soul. It's it's like they say, when you exercise, you get more energy. But people are like, oh, but I don't want to take the time to exercise. I don't have time. But then when you exercise, you actually have more energy. So then you can do more things, so you're not so crunched on your time. The same way is true here. It's not either or, it's both, right? Yeah. And in the same way, when I nurture my soul, instead of trying to constantly be productive, giving myself some leeway when maybe I have my to-do list and I hit a point and I'm not productive anymore. It makes no sense to actually sit there and try to finish it and make it happen. I need to take a break, right? And do something that nurtures my soul or inspires me. And then when I come back around, I'm way more productive and I do way more powerful work. When I bring joy and inspiration into my to-do list, it's fun and it feeds my soul. Yeah, so it isn't this one or the other. Either you have fun or you have money. You are either working hard or you're lazy. You got to get it right or you're wrong, right? It's finding the center, and I'm figuring that out. And that is one of the prayers my company is built on. The prayer to find balance, to find the center. It's one of the reasons that I built Shaman School with a masculine structure and a feminine flow. Honestly, it's still probably tilted a little bit on the feminine side. Because again, we're learning, right? But I find that this really supports the most growth and allows us to learn to accept and be okay with all of the parts of ourselves, right? Or heal the part of ourselves that we're rejecting. Because when we reject one thing in the world, there's part of ourselves that we reject in that too. So the most important thing you need to know to work with me is if you think you have it figured out, go ahead and let that go. because you don't have to have it figured out. I don't have it figured out. So you don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to show up. And I just wanted to share that with you today, especially as we continue to consume lots of social media and marketing, and we look at photos of other people and it seems like they have it all together. And I know this isn't some new message or some surprising thing, but just remembering that they also don't have it all together. And so in that way, you're no different, and no one is actually better than the other. Thanks for being with me today. I'll see you next time. Have you been hearing the call to expand your spiritual gifts and step into your next level of conscious leadership? If you're a coach, healer, or a spiritual leader, you can learn more about Shaman School and growing your spiritual business on our website, HoltonHealingArts.com, or send me a DM at Holton Healing Arts. Welcome to today's Member Query episode, where we explore questions about spiritual paths, intuitive gifts, growing a spiritual business, and shamanism. Do you have a question for us? Send us a DM at Holton Healing Arts. Okay, so today's question is, I want to know what it feels like to deeply heal someone. Does it affect you physically? And the quick answer is yes. So many shamans are natural healers without actually being taught anything. It's just a gift that they come into the world with, but that doesn't also mean that they know what they're doing. So the old way has you take sort of something from them, something from the client, misalignment, an intrusion, poison, something that's in their system, and actually run it through your body to remove it from their system. And to do that safely, the shaman has to work and merge with the spirits that are in agreement to do that work and that are equipped to handle that energy. But this is just one way. The other way to deeply heal someone else is to heal yourself around the thing that they're struggling with. First of all, remember that not everyone who asks for healing work from you is right for you to work with, nor is what they're asking for always the best thing for them. So just keep that in mind when you do have people that are seeking healing work from you. But since we are all connected, if someone's coming to you and is an aligned client, that means you have what they want to work on in you. That means the issue that they're struggling with is also an issue that exists in you. So find it in yourself and heal your version of it. And this will actually open up the field to give them their own healing in the same way. Right? So one of the best ways to actually heal others is to heal where we are a match to whatever they're struggling with. Thanks again for joining me today. See you next time. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Leading with Spirit. If you did, please share the link for this episode with your biggest takeaway, tagging me at Holton Healing Arts. It would also support me if you subscribed and left a rating and review of the show so we can support more people living their highest purpose. Until next time, journey on.